This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, I guess we're on. Picking up from yesterday, this is the Blue Cherry BCBI report builder. So what typically happens is that we spin up a SQL server that does a data collection from the ERP on a nightly basis, once a day. And we provide for you on top of that data warehouse a report builder, which is a nice little interactive way to generate SQL queries against the data warehouse. So I don't know how savvy you are yourself with SQL. You definitely, once you have the data warehouse, have access to create your own queries and run your own queries. This BCBI report builder tool is useful for those of us who aren't SQL developers and who need a way to generate a query against the warehouse. So the modules involved in the BCBI report builder are obviously report building and launching. We have a Bro Builder, which, similar to the ERP, lets you create a custom expression that is available throughout the system for use. We have security configuration, which allows you to decide who can and cannot view and run reports. And the Cube Manager, as I explained yesterday, and we'll go over a little bit further, it allows you to manage the published reports that you have created. So clicking into the report builder, you'll see that you have the option to create a new report or open an existing report. As a best practice, typically, I would say you want to start off of a report that's already generated. When you get the BCBI reporting tool, you'll get a series of reports that are marked base. So these are out-of-the-box reports that we've pre-configured for you as examples of the types of reports that you might want to generate. And you'll see that the base reports at times will have joins pre-made for you, so that all you have to do is run. So I'll just talk a little bit about the anatomy of the report building tool. You have up here a search box, which allows you to look at all of the available business reporting objects from all of the shells that you've collected onto this report. You have the ability to join as many shells as you want. So you'll notice that the shells that are available in this application are different than the shells that are available in Blue Cherry. We might have much less in BCBI, not because there's less data, but because we've consolidated a lot of information onto single shells. So you'll have provided for you shells that are related to AR, to inventory, to sales, to production. Typically, that's what's delivered out of the box. And you'll notice that there's two types of shells. There's a snapshot shell, which goes into the Blue Cherry ERP database and takes a snapshot of the database at the time of the data collection. And there are history shells. History shells on a nightly basis query Blue Cherry and check to see if their data has changed. If the data changes, it collects a new line and retires the old line. The history shell gives you the ability to go back in time and look at a report as of a certain date. So I'll give you an example. You'll be able to run as of inventory balances or as of AR balances using a history shell. So when joining shells, it's usually the best practice to start off in the shell that has the most information and then later join the corresponding shells. When you join a shell, you have the ability to do, these are SQL functions, a left join, inner join, and a full join. So left join brings in all the data of the parent shell and only the matching records from the shells that are joined. An inner join filters all of the shells to only pull in data that is matching. So if I had pulled in sales and returns, and I'm doing an inner join, I would only see styles that have both a sale and a return on them. And then a full join indiscriminately pulls in all data from all shells. So this is a little abstract, but in most cases, you'll probably just be doing a full join. Any questions so far on left join, inner join, and full join?
No.
Thanks.
Okay, any questions?
Good.
Okay.
No. I know about inner join.
Okay, cool. Perfect. You probably explained it better than I do. So once you've pulled in all your data from all your shells, you'll have the ability, when you search on a keyword, to search all of the shells that are available. Again, for efficiency purposes, if it's available in the parent shell, pull it from there rather than a joined shell. After having pulled in values, or first, let me show you. You can highlight a value and click Add Row. As long as one of the sections here are highlighted, the system will automatically add that row to the section that's highlighted. You can also grab the row from its icon and drag and drop to wherever you want to drop it. And the last option is if there's a section down here that's highlighted, when you double click, the item gets added there. So those are the 3 ways to add items into your sections. Okay, so typically what we'll do is we'll have at least one grouping column, a grouping row. Columns are not required, and then you have your values. Once values exist within your report, you have the ability to create a custom expression. So clicking a new expression lets you create any SQL formula that you want. So right now I'm in the human readable section where it's showing me something that I could recognize as a human being. But if you are super cool and know SQL, you also have the ability to write the SQL expression directly from here. So I typically show people like easy ones, this plus that, but it supports, case when, if null, is null. So the only requirement is to give the expression a title and to select your appropriate data type. So out of the box, we provide character, number, integer, money, which we'll put in the dollar sign and add 2 decimals. And when you are creating a row, you can indicate whether this is a sum, an average, or non-numeric. So for people who are not SQL developers, non-numeric basically means that this is almost like a text value that should repeat and not something that you should add up if it's collapsed. Okay, so we have our available rows here. We have how to get the values there. We've gone over how to create an expression. So down to some of the fancy stuff. When I pull in units to a report, I also have the ability within the options to slice that number into periods of time. So once you've highlighted a units or values or dollars row, you'll have the option to select what blue cherry field to split on. So as an example here, we have open total units. I could say based on either the order date or the start date, I want to split these dollars up into periods of time. So it could be yesterday, tomorrow, week to date, quarter to date, last week. And by selecting these rows, you'll be able to create a report as you see on the screen, where you see open this year, shipped this year, percent to last year. You don't see the values in the back, but here you go. Open this year, shipped last year, and percent to last year were all created from various shells, at times calculated manually, and displayed vertically in the view. Any questions so far?
Oh, good.
Okay.
In this report, it's so Christina. In this report, it's so open this year, shipped last year, and percentage to last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same column and the same vertical rows, it's so shipped last year and then percentage last year, then open this year. But in this report, I'm not saying seeing anywhere where is the last year of shipped last year and open this year.
This is demo data. So
Okay.
unfortunately, when I run this report, I don't get valuable numbers, but come
okay,
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a demo data.
Yeah. So
Okay.
in addition to being able to split my facts by this year and last year, I also have the ability to take any date that's available in the shell and group my data across. So when you pull data from multiple shells, you have the question of, do I have that date in both shells? Do I have a start date in both my open order shell and my return shell? Or do I have an open date in my invoice shell and in my open order shell? For that reason, we created something that's called an action date. So an action date is the date that's most appropriate to that shell. As an example, open order snapshot, the action date is the start date. In the returns history, the action date is the return date. This gives us the ability to group from multiple shells under the same date period, so be it year or month. Questions on that?
No, thanks. Thank
Okay.
you.
So here I'll go into the options of my date row, and I'll be able to choose how to group, be it by month, month name, weekend to date. And again, these are out of the box. If you find that there's a time slice that you don't see here, it can be added for you as part of your data collection. These are just the standard ones that come out of the box. Okay, so the next thing would be to cube. So when we're running our reports, we have various options available to you. The first option is to create a pivot cube, which is what you see here. So it's not super exciting on this screen because I don't have more than one group here. So I'm just going to add this one. Oh, you just decided to do what you want, didn't you? There you go. When you have, so this is the same as a pivot table. It's a pivot grid. I have the ability to on screen move my facts around, and the application will dynamically summarize differently as I move the data on and off the screen. I also have the ability to take some of the fields which were put into the report and hide them so that I can look at things at a summary level if needed. And again, you can drag and drop anything vertically or horizontally in this cube view. So you notice that there's a very hard line here between the report building tool and the actual cube. At the time that you publish or this particular report, what the users will see will be just the area on the right. So if you have filters that you want to use, typically you have the option to mark them as interactive filters, which means that at the time that you publish the report, the user will have that filter available to them to use, and you'll notice that it came up to here. So in addition to having, go ahead.
Thanks. Continue.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Ishran. Go ahead.
Okay. So because we're pulling data from multiple shells, in addition to providing an interactive filter, what you could also do is provide a global filter. As an example, style will exist in both your open orders, your shipped orders. So marking something as a global filter means that when you filter on that, you want all of the shells to filter on that. And that's actually the best, to me, one of the best things, because you can filter differently on the different shells. So if I were to pull in any filters that were date related, I can filter on start dates that are greater than a certain date, and I can from a different shell filter in the opposite direction, which is something that you can't do in Blue Cherry because you only have one shell. So I'm taking my data and I'm filtering on it even differently based on the shell that was pulled in. Do you have a question?
Yeah, this work like as a and or this work like as a or operators. That means
You have
start date is mm,
you
okay.
see here? You have the
Yeah,
option
yeah.
to switch between an and an or.
Okay.
Um, oh, we got someone fancy on the phone. What else?
King
So
King Abay. King Abay.
King of Bear. So those are the additional options in your filters. On the groups that you bring into your report, you do have the option to, by default, always expand the group, so that when you run it, it's always like this. Or you have the ability to say that these two are part of the same group. So maybe a style code and a style name, you'll say that they're the same group, so that when one gets expanded, automatically the other gets expanded. And you have the ability to merge the two onto the same field. So remembering that at times this data is kind of put into a report so that it could be fed to somewhere else. You have the ability to take two columns, two groupings, and make them into a single column group in your SQL query by using the merge function. And if you need to, you can add a prefix and suffix to there. Okay, so let me just show you how that works. Okay, so here you have style code and style name. If I run it first like this, there are distinct columns, right? And I have to expand them separately. If I were to to say that this is part of the same group, every time I change my settings, you want to recube. When I expand, I no longer need to do a second expansion because it's part of the same group. And in addition to that, we have the merge function, which lets me merge to the previous one. Oops. And now it's the style code dash the style name, or you can do style dash space to create an expression here that expands it. There you go. So in the values area, you have several formatting options. You can change the name of, so this was called Open Total Units Start, blah, 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 blah. I renamed it to Open Total Units to be more friendly on the report. I have the option to choose if this is a sum, a min, an average, or a standard deviation. I can control the width of the field on the page. I can decide whether or not a comma is used if it's in the thousands. And here's a special one. If the only reason that I pulled this KPI into this report is so that I can do a calculation, I can make it hidden so that the next time that it runs, when I cube, you don't see it anymore. So think of all the reports that had 7, 8 columns just because you're trying to do the math to come up with like what's your percentage. You don't have to display these on the report anymore. Okay, so those are the basics on report writing in the Cube Viewer. All of our reports are also available to be displayed in an SSRS report format. So when you use the report button here by expanding and clicking report, you get presented with a more, I call it like paper-friendly view. If you have executives who are used to looking at things on paper and really want to see all of their columns laid out and have, every other line highlighted, this is usually a preferable format. If the SSRS view is something that you like, you also have the option to run it as a flat report, which means by default, we'll never group, we'll just show you all of the values. Again, so this is sometimes used if you're just trying to extract to provide a list externally. In the additional options, you also have the ability to say whether or not you want to show a chart in the report, and you can decide what type of chart to use and give it a title. So that's, I think, in the cube viewer. Oh, sorry, I have to indicate at least one of these is a chart item. There we go. Open this here. shipped last year. We're going to chart this. Isn't that fancy? There you go. And so as actually you go clicking through the, you can see your numbers visually. Okay, so Cube report and SSRS report. At some point, you'll become satisfied with your report and want to make it available to your users. At that point, you'll have the publishing option. The publish option generates for you a URL, like you see right here, which can be opened in Internet Explorer at any time, and that URL, I don't know what I did, that URL will show you the report up to date as of the moment that you clicked it. So we were talking yesterday about push and pull methods of reporting. This is a pull method where we're giving you a URL, and they can go to this URL whenever they want and pull the latest data. Typically, what we do with this URL is we save it into the command center of Blue Cherry so that the user has access to it whenever they need to, and it gives you as administrators of the system the ability to restrict which groups can and cannot see a certain report through the Blue Cherry security settings. Any questions on that?
How we can add this URL on our report command, or you can
Sure.
say command builder?
So you just copy the report.
Mhm.
I don't think I have Blue Cherry open anywhere. Okay. Pat your head, rub your belly. Okay. This is the application section of Blue Cherry. You can link onto here any external application or website,
Mhm.
and I'm just launching the application builder. When you create this link, you have the options of launching inside or outside of Blue Cherry. So when you launch inside of Blue Cherry, it will become another tab on your screen. When you launch outside of Blue Cherry, it opens as another app on your desktop. Okay? You have the so the URL that we've provided to you, you would just paste it into here. And so the security settings that I'm talking about are up here. You decide whether or not this report is a corporate report, a group report, or a user report. If it's a group report, based on the representative that's identified here, only users within that group would be able to see this report. If it's a user report, same logic. Whoever's called out here, only that user would be able to see it. Or a corporate report is available to everybody.
That means we paste the copy and paste the URL in app URL section and
Yes,
change the template name, right?
correct.
Okay.
Okay. So going back to something we
Yes.
talked about a little bit earlier, one of the things that we have here is a Cube Manager. So the Cube Manager lists all of the published reports that you've made and gives you the option to delete it. So if you decided that report doesn't need to be public anymore, you can delete that report. Okay, so back to Report Builder. So when you're trying to open a report, you have, this hierarchical drop-down list that people are used to that lets you find your reports thematically. But we also have the Show Report section, which lets you type in the report that you're looking for and find it. So here I would do, here we go. So you'll notice that some of these don't actually say the word demo in them. You have the ability in the properties of the report to put in some keywords that will let you find the report easily. Okay, so that's just publishing and searching. These are like additional export options. And I say this for with every implementation of a new tool, you have to manage the users who are used to doing it their way. So this is what these are. When you have a report, we have 3 additional options for you to extract by. One is Excel values. Compare this to copying and pasting as value into Excel. All we're doing is taking the data and the format and pasting it into that Excel sheet. None of the formulas will go on there. The pivot grid won't go on there. It's just a straight copy paste. We have a pivot. So we have the ability to export a pivot table, which is adjustable at the time that it's exported, meaning that they can group and summarize as needed using Excel pivot, but it's not linked to the database. And then the last one is export to Excel with BI database link, which is the super fun one. If your user definitely is never going to log into Blue Cherry and they just want their Excel report, you can provide them an Excel sheet, which is perpetually connected to the data warehouse, and it refreshes as needed or on a daily basis based on the last night's data collection. This one will be fun for you, King. We also provide for you, if needed, the SQL query that holds that data.
She just called you King, Abe.
Okay, it's a query for all the process, right? For this report only. This is a query for this report.
This is for this report. So, most users don't know how to create a SQL query. This is just an interactive way to generate this query. If you're more advanced and want to interrogate the query, you have the query available to you here.
Okay. That's great. So
the last step is, you guys purchased Power BI, correct?
Yeah. That's correct.
Yeah. So what? Power BI, Microsoft Power BI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The answer is yes. But here's the challenge: we already have that on our. We have licenses. I talked to our IT department. We outsource our IT, and they purchased that when they bought the whole bundle of Office 365. So we already have those licenses.
Okay. I don't think who sold you the license is a huge issue. It's like $10.
Okay.
We're not going broke off of it. So after you've generated your report, after you've accumulated all of the facts and dimensions that you think you're going to want to visualize on Power BI, you have the ability to make a SQL view. And that is what we expose to Power BI. Power BI will be able to query any of the views that you've generated in the BCBI report builder. And from there, you can generate your dashboards. Any questions on that before we move on?
No, thanks.
Okay. So we are heading along fine. We have 20 minutes left. Did you want to go through more questions on report building, or and please say no, did you want to go to Power BI?
Any questions on report building?
Yeah, go to the report building, not BRBI.
Yeah.
Basic report building.
Okay. So, any questions so far?
Yeah, obviously. Basically, today I tried with the grouping functions. Okay, I just want to need the report group by the customer And yesterday, if you remember, I asked the questions. If I want to group the total of open quantity by the customer,
Mhm.
okay.
Okay.
But in report building, yesterday in report building, in this I didn't write. But
Mhm.
in report builder, it's not. I'm trying to group by customer and trying to aggregate the function of open quantity, but it will not happen.
Of course. So I was explaining to you that in Blue
Yeah, then
Cherry we
we
have
can.
open, we have open, and we have picked. Here, I'll just start from scratch. So new
Yeah,
open order report.
right.
Right. And I'm going to take this from the sales order open order snapshot. It's the most economical, right, data wise, because once it's invoiced,
Okay, can
you don't care about it.
can, can we create one report from the scratch?
Yeah,
In
that's what
particular,
I'm
in
doing.
that report required. Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Go
so
ahead.
I'm selecting the open picked order snapshot because in this case we're only interrogating open orders. So I don't care about the history. I'm not going to waste my time querying the history, right?
Right. Right.
So I start from blank, right? So the first thing, is this units or dollars?
It's
Units.
okay.
Okay, so I have open units in my values. I have picked units in my values. And I want to summarize it by customer. So I'm just going to summarize it by customer. I'm adding 2 dimensions here, saving it. Okay, so
Okay.
now I have the ability to create an expression, which is, let's call it unshipped, right? Because opened is a term that Blue Cherry has taken from you. And because I don't know what's a null and what's not, I always do my basic sums in is null because it doesn't hurt. And I'm just saying that
Number.
it's a summable number with no precision because I don't sell half a unit. And now I have an unshipped unit, and this is how you would do it. So open, picked, unshipped. This is what you're looking for, the total unshipped. And as I was explaining to you before, if this is too confusing to see open and picked, you can hide them from a report. And now you only see unshipped.
Right. Now in the same report. Right. In the same reports, now we want to add our style and color. We want to know that for the based on the customer style and color in the field names. How which style and colors we didn't ship, how much quantities. Okay, then everything we put in the group by.
Mhm.
Everything we are putting in the group by.
Yes, ma'am.
I want
Yes.
to group by. Okay. Group by the customer, then group by style and color.
Yep. Columbia University is calling me. They finally accepting my application.
You know, I didn't realize you were this funny. You got a great sense of humor. Is that where you want to go? Where did you go to school?
Hunter College and Baruch. I went to
That's
both.
both of those schools are great. I love. I have a daughter, and I think she wants to go to NYU, but I think she's going to have to start out at Baruch. Baruch's a fantastic school.
It's tough.
Okay.
It's no joke.
You
Okay.
I believe you.
Christina, you are spending here. That is Archana total is that it's a customer. And what is Air Canada?
Oh, this was the customer name. So you have the
Customer. Okay.
customer code,
Then is style
customer
code.
name. Yep, style code,
Okay.
style
Okay.
name.
And if you want to show in the vertical field as a column field, then we can put as a flat report, right?
Yeah, you can make
Okay.
it as so if you want to see this flat, if that's how your users prefer it,
Okay.
you can do flat report and look at it in the SSRS.
SSRS.
There you go.
Yeah.
Old school.
But here how we can see that group by the customer only, group by the total. Now yes, in this
He's
So
looking.
you don't want
He's
it
looking
to
for
be flat.
summaries. He's looking for
yeah
summaries.
summaries, summary group by the customer and subtotal of the customer.
So
I think
here's the
that's going to be.
customer.
Isn't this going to be better in like an inquiry, Christina?
It would be better in an inquiry, but I'm showing it's not necessarily something that we can't do. So going back to those tricks that we had, this is grouped by the customer code. And since customer code and customer name are pretty much the same thing, I'm going to merge them and separate it by a dash. So now inside out designs, even though I have the ability to see what styles they are, I know I have 1,000 units that are unshipped, and I can open this up to look at which styles they are and then open it up again to see which.
See the style name.
Yeah, so again, I can, if, style code and style name mean the same to me, I can merge these and recube this. So to David's point, yeah, this can come into an inquiry. What is not available in the inquiry is that quote unquote unshipped value, right? That I could only calculate manually through this tool.
Okay. Thanks.
Did you have any more questions of A with reporting? Because I would like Christina to
No
last 15
question will
minutes
be
going
created
Power
when
BI.
we work. Right, when we work on this report, then question will arise.
Okay, Christina, can you last 15 minutes? Can we do Power BI?
All right.
Come on, Columbia's calling. You got 15 minutes till you have to go up there.
All
Christina,
right.
if you could tell me who's buried, what president is buried next to Columbia University, I'd be really impressed.
I'm definitely the only president who I know where he's buried is Andrew Jackson, and that's because he's buried right here in Trinity Park.
Wow. Ulysses S. Grant
Ulysses S. Grant.
and his
Oh,
wife
I know that.
Julia
Why
Dent.
did the bar is all the way down here? They're like so far away. Ulysses. Anyway, so Power BI. Connect. Oh, come on.
Is it Andrew Jackson or Alexander Hamilton that's buried down there? Yeah, I think it's Hamilton.
Hamilton, you're right. Yeah. See, I can't tell any of them apart. Okay, so Power BI. So Power BI is installed as a desktop client into whoever's wanting to view any of these dashboards. It is part of your Office 365 profile, so their credentials will be their email credentials. And I'm just going to open something that I had recently opened, I hope. I know my profile got messed up recently, so at least let's see if I can open the viewer. Yay! Okay. All right. So the first thing that someone will do is go to Get Data and choose a SQL Server option. They're going to look at their BCBI About section, and in their About section, they'll be able to see what the database name and what the server name are. So the area in the brackets and the area after the period will get copy pasted into the, this is the area in the brackets, the area after the period. I'll walk you through it when you actually have something to do. And that creates a connection to the BCBI data warehouse. And I'm so sorry, my credentials are a little messed up right now. But the next step is you'll be able to see all of the views that you exposed through the BCBI report builder, okay? So once you've selected your view, all of the facts and dimensions that were on that report are now available to you here on the left-hand side as a potential data point that you'll put into the visualizations that are available in BCBI. So I'm just going to open a new tab here. And so you would start a new visual, and you'd select which one of these particular graphics is relevant to you. And then you just go selecting the dimensions and the facts. So something that I like about Power BI is it actually is smart. It knows what's a dimension. It knows what's a fact. So it goes ahead and drops stuff into the values that's appropriate, into the axis that's appropriate. You probably only have to do like minimal editing after this. And then there we go. So you've created your new visual. And you just go ahead and you create a bunch of different visuals as appropriate. I'm just going to click randomly to get this populated. Oh, actually, I'll go back here. So you'll pick a few different graphics that are appropriate to the report that you're trying to look at the moment. And typically you want to group them contextually. So this would be a sales order dashboard. What's cool is that it's dynamic. So if I were to click here on department stores, my other dashboards are going to react and show me how they're represented, how that filter is represented on those dashboards. So there, it only showed me department store data. Here, if I go back here and click Macy's, it summarizes the other views based on Macy's. And I'm trying to think. So the best practice when you're building reports in BCBI is that you try to get as much information on a single view as possible so that you have a lot of flexibility in the report writer tool to just dynamically start creating all of these dashboards. You do have the ability to pull in as many views as you want, so you're not restricted to that. I'm lazy. I prefer to build a BCBI report with as much information as possible, so I have less joining to do here in the report builder of Power BI.
Right.
So after you've come up with your dashboard, you do have the option to go into the phone layout section and determine which of your little KPIs will show first, second, or last. You can configure them. You can add and remove them. I'm going to switch back to the desktop layout. And in addition to that, I'll send you a little PowerPoint. You can control the frequency at which this is refreshed. But it's super simple, Power BI.
This is great. Now, are we able to do this from our SharePoint, our own corporate SharePoint? Because we want to publish the dashboard on ours.
So I believe that the publishing tools you don't need to go through SharePoint. BCBI within itself has publishing tools that require users to enter their credentials. So if they use a mobile app, they'll have a Power BI app on their phone, and all they have to do is log into their app, and they'll be able to see their dashboard. And again, there's a desktop client which they would use to view their reports from there.
Got it. So how would I put this to our corporate intranet, our corporate SharePoint?
I'm not an expert in SharePoint, but typically these third-party applications have what's called an iframe, where you can open a web page within a web page. And I'm sure that there's instructions on similar to what we did, like put a URL there and it'll show it there. I'm so sorry.
Right,
I'm
cool.
not a SharePoint expert.
All right. This is great. Abe, any more questions?
No. Thanks, David.
All right, this is great. Once we get some data in our system, which is probably going to be about 3 weeks, we'll probably have some good data. We'll do a follow-up with Power BI with you.
Okay. So quick question. Historical data. Are you intending on loading any of your historical data into this app?
No. So we're going to start fresh.
Okay. All right.
We're actually changing all our style numbers. We're doing a brand new style naming convention. We will import about 1,600 UPCs. That's about it.
So what's going to happen with your year-over-year reporting if you don't?
Yeah, what we're gonna do is we're somehow gonna map this with our legacy ERP, and we'll put a spread on SharePoint like last year, and then we'll we'll put above that this year with Blue Cherry.
Okay.
Unless you had a different suggestion.
Yeah, I was gonna say no pressure, but you could load last year's numbers into the data warehouse. it would require you do like the transformation process, which means potentially like loading a style master so that we know like the merchandise groups, or if you want to just load like a summary, we can create a shell called like sales summary or something like that.
I like that.
Where
I like this a lot. Yeah.
so it's something that like, think about it, like at what's the lowest level that you'll be able to provide last year numbers at, and we can create a view for you that has that data so that you can join with your current ERP data and compare last year to this year.
Is there a template you have where we could start to prepare that before we
I
meet
could
again?
provide for you. Yeah, I could provide for you the templates. Basically, it's just a schema of the table, but you'll find that you can't conform to that schema. So then it's about looking at the data that you do have and saying, what's the lowest level that I'll be able to provide for you? Is it at a customer level? Is it at a style level? Is it, month level, week level, day level?
Okay. All right. This is good. All right. So if you can email me that portion and also the Power BI PowerPoint that you talked about, and then what we'll do is we'll
Yeah,
schedule something probably right around the first week of May with you.
sure.
Okay. This is
Make
great
make
instruction.
sure that it's the front part of the week, because I'll be out of office that Friday and the following Monday, Tuesday.
Okay. This is great. Christina, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Thank
Christian.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye bye.
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 Bay, I'll call you back.
Okay, David. I will call you after 1 hour. Okay,
Okay.
Asu is on call basically. Okay,
Okay.
I was
Bye.
busy in between. Okay, bye.
Bye.